Always straight talk. Dave Dixon on CFAX 1070.
Thanks again to Minister Ida Chong for her time. And joining us right now, we're going to continue this conversation on Bill 50 and the potential impacts of it. We're joined here in studio. We've had them on before with Zuma Martial Arts. We welcome Adam Zugec and Sarah Kaufman. Adam, Sarah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.
Yeah, I wanted to get your reaction, Adam, to this. This is a pretty big announcement for what you do.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal for, my friends like Sarah, who are phenomenal professional fighters who can, start to hopefully in the future perform in front of, the local people that can show some really good support for them.
Yeah, and because we're talking about the rules right now that are in place.
Well, depending on where you go, the rules are going to change because there's so many small little commissions. So if we have a commission that goes across the province, now we kind of, everybody knows what to expect. There's going to be continually people working at making the rules and regulations better and safer for the fighters. So I think putting that in place is just going to make for the sport to be, safer for the fighters and more enjoyable for them to perform as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sarah, would you agree with that?
Especially as a fighter, it's always nice when you show up and the commission has everything laid out. These are the medical requirements that you need. If you don't meet them, you can't fight. That's for the safety of the fighter. It's not to prevent people who want to fight from fighting. It's really to make sure that the athletes who are competing are able-bodied and able to do so in terms of making sure that, injuries don't happen that aren't necessary. Mm-hmm. And it's really exciting to see the province taking a stand on it and supporting the sport, which is such a huge sport. And in the end, it really is going to bring more revenue for the province, but also it's going to produce, I think, a higher level of athlete because you're used to these professional shows where you show up, everything's set, everything's ready to go, and you're not worried about the person you're fighting potentially either having an injury that you could worsen or, giving you something that you shouldn't be getting from another fighter. Has
there been a bit of confusion in your, experience as a fighter? Because there's about 9 commissions within the province. Some municipalities don't even allow MMA. Do they have different rules? Have you gone to one area and it's a different rule compared to another one? There
definitely are differences between all the municipalities that have the commissions right now. Some of them will require pretty stringent medical tests, which I think are a good thing for a fighter. Others require simple blood work. Some are newer, so the municipality will say to a promoter, absolutely, we allow it, but then they have to organize the commission themselves, which in turn leads to, just kind of friends or locals jumping in and saying, oh, well, we'll sit by and watch people taping hands, and they don't actually have the proper knowledge to know if that's a safe hand wrap or if it's something that's potentially going to either damage the hand or damage your opponent.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too safe. And
no.
That's what one thing Minister Chong stressed as well. She thinks, Adam, this will make things a lot safer for fighters.
Yeah, I definitely think she's right. It will make things much safer for fighters because you're also going to have a staff that's going to be better well-informed as far as all the commission rules. Right now, kind of what was been alluded to earlier was just that if there's so many different commissions or new commissions, sometimes they don't understand all the rules quite yet. So, with a commission being straight across the board, I think now you're going to have everybody understanding all the same rules and there won't be any confusions.
Yeah, which is key. How will it affect yourself, sir? Because you've fought all over the country. You've fought in the United States. Do you think now you'll be able to potentially have more fights close to home?
Potentially, I think it's a really positive thing for myself and for, my fans and the people who are locals who want to see local athletes at a high level, but competing locally still. And I know that UFC has brought their shows to Vancouver twice, and I know each time it was kind of a big confusion, and there was a lot of hoops that had to be jumped through. And I think for that reason, the UFC opted out of having a show in Vancouver this year, which is a huge hit on the economy because it does bring a massive
millions
following.
And millions of dollars, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, despite that, the opportunity to have, myself fight for Strikeforce, which is a Zuffa-run organization, would be great to have it in Victoria or Vancouver, where you could have a really high-level show and present that to the locals.
What do you say to people, Adam, that still think MMA is a blood sport? It's barbaric, it's dangerous, and the government shouldn't be endorsing something like this?
I mean, I think it's great that people have their opinions, and not everybody's going to like the sport, and I think that's fine. But the fact is, I think the sport has made its mark and it's here, and I think it's best to allow the people that are competing in the sport to be safe. You know, to have that ability for them to compete and be safe, I think, is what's really important. I think at this point now, to argue about whether or not it should be a sport or not be a sport is kind of, it's done with. You know,
it's a moot point. It's
a moot point. It's here. It's, you know, Dana White's done a phenomenal job of putting it on Fox, and it's here to stay. Yeah,
it's not going anywhere.
No.
I've heard as well that a lot of MMA here in the province, because of the confusion, the lack of a governing body for the province, and a lack of an athletic commission, the sport is underground, quite a bit of underground. Do you think that'll maybe come to the surface now?
I definitely hope so. I mean, my first professional show, I fought in Vancouver, and it was on a reserve because Vancouver at the time didn't allow the professional events. But on a reserve, there's different rules. And I think there's a lot of that going on right now. I mean, it gave me an opportunity to fight, but, you know, having been in bigger shows and the highest level for females, there's definitely a huge difference between those lower end that are just trying to put on a show wherever they can, and the ones that are getting the proper, just the proper input from all areas.
Yeah,
and
you probably learned a lot.
Absolutely.
Based on that first one. Talk about those differences. Like, what types of tests did you undergo for the high-end professional sanctioned event versus something maybe on a First Nations reserve?
I mean, different commissions have required different things, even in the United States. And general, you have to do a Hep B test, Hep C test, HIV, as well as some commissions require a full ophthalmologic exam. I don't even know how to say it.
Basically an eye exam.
Yeah, but a really fancy one that costs a lot of money. And then MRIs, CT scans, EKGs. I mean, there are a lot of requirements for most commissions. And I think on my first fight, I got blood work that I handed in, and I don't even know if the other person handed in blood work.
Oh, gosh.
You know, it was...
Yeah. That's
it was kind of like, we hope everyone has it in, but who knows?
Yeah, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Time to go. Gosh, so that is good. They really do their backgrounds. And if, say, someone has a head injury, a concussion, there's a time frame on when they can return to the ring as well?
Absolutely. Most commissions, regardless if you win or lose, usually put a restriction on when you're allowed to have contact again. So even if you win a fight in 5 seconds by knockout, you'll still have, I think it's a 7 to 14 day suspension before you're supposed to either legally fight or have any full contact again. And then if you have a concussion or if you have an injury that they're not 100% sure about, they'll give you an indefinite medical suspension until you've been cleared. And usually that results in another CT scan or MRI, depending on what your injury is. But it really is for the safety of the fighters to ensure that you're not getting into a fight, getting knocked out, and a week later, because you want to fight a lot, getting into another fight and making it that much worse.
Yeah, and with your training, does that happen as training as well? You're basically like, hey, I just fought a week ago. I've got to take maybe another week off, that sort of thing when you're at Zuma, or how does that work?
Well, Sarah's someone who likes to train a lot. A lot of people do have certain tendencies on how they come back after a fight. Most people take a bit of time off. Sarah, I really like Sarah's attitude. I think it's a real natural fighter's attitude, and I'm very envious of it. You know, she's after her fight the next morning, she wakes up and goes for a run. So she's training the next day, already getting ready for that next opportunity. And I think that's what makes her a phenomenal fighter. But everybody does have their own view as to when they should come back. A lot of the guys like to take their time.
Yeah, good for Sarah for getting right back on there. Yeah, for sure. Well, you probably have to, and putting yourself through that. We're talking with Adam Zugec and Sarah Kaufman with Zuma Martial Arts. If you have any questions or comments regarding the topic of a potential athletic commission for the province, 250-386-1161 or star 1070. So, Sarah, do you feel that there could be some really good opportunities not only for yourself, but maybe other young women that are interested in mixed martial arts having a provincial body?
Coming up, there are always, and it's really exciting to see new faces and younger people getting into the sport. And at Zuma, I'm lucky enough to get to teach the kids class as well. And having a bill put in place now would allow, I have some 7 to 10-year-olds who, girls and boys, who are really involved in the sport. I mean, they are so cute. After my fight, one of them came in, said, "I watched your fight, but I closed my eyes half the time," because she's 6.
Yeah, is that too young to be maybe showing kids that sort of thing?
I think they're
not striking; they're more kind of jiu-jitsu at that age, correct?
Yeah, we don't do a lot of sparring with that age group because, again, it's for the safety of their brains and their bodies that are growing. But they do get to hit the pads, and they do understand the wrestling and the grappling. And I think it's exciting for them to see someone they know. And I don't think they would watch fights all the time, but because I'm their instructor, they kind of get that thrill of seeing someone who's local that they know, on the big screen, on a big promotion. And the bill is really going to enable that generation to have an opportunity to come up through the ranks properly and really safely and do really well in the sport if they want to.
250-386-1161, star 1070. We have Harry on the line from Saanich with a question. Go ahead, Harry.
Hello. First of all, congratulations to Sarah. She's a world champion, a very classy person, and her trainer. He's the trainer of the champions. Adam, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks very much, Harry.
My topic here is that I see the politicians are now getting involved, and we agree that this is a good thing, this is a safe thing for the future. And I've been doing these sports now for over 20 years here locally and up and down the island and in Vancouver and that sort of thing. My main concern is, and I was hoping to get some feedback from your two guests, is that we need to regulate the commission also. I've met more flakes out of Las Vegas, up and down the island, commissioners that drink out of the back of a pickup before the show, or people that are in it more for their money than the safety of the sport. How do they think we can regulate getting good people into those roles to make the sport more safe? And that is my question. Thank you.
Harry, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. I never even thought of do you have any response to that, Adam or Sarah?
Well, that's a great question, Harry. I think basically it's just going to be one of those things where you're, constantly trying to look for better people all the time. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to regulate that. What do you think, Sarah?
I think the first step will probably be involving, people who have been really influential in the sport so far. Yeah. People like Bill Mahood, who's been involved with regulating BC Amateur Commission, is getting people who are really knowledgeable to take somewhat control of a commission of that sort. So you have the people with that knowledge in place. And then, of course, you're going to always have to look and make sure that those people are doing their job and doing it to the fullest. But you have to kind of put a little bit of support behind the fact that they are so invested in creating such a positive thing for the sport.
Yeah, Sarah brings up a great point. You have people that, like, for example, Bill Mahood, who has helped the amateur commissions right now. He's been involved with the sport for an extremely long time, and for a long time, there hasn't been a lot of money in the sport, so he's been doing it for love. So a lot of the guys that have been around for a long time, they basically do it for the love of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a matter. And how have you, in your experiences in your professional career, have you the majority of people running these commissions, are they pretty reputable? Not a bunch of flakes, I guess.
From everyone I've met, I think a lot of commissions have evolved out of a boxing commission. So not all have been the most knowledgeable about MMA as a whole, but I would say that almost all of them have been extremely intrigued and interested in learning more about the sport. Mm-hmm. So they understand, the medical requirements, and that's their job. Another person, they're responsible for hand wrapping, and that's their job. And it's really interesting to see, even as people are taping your hands or watching your hands being taped, or the people who walk you back and forth, and that's their job. It's really interesting to see their excitement for the sport as it's growing, and they're trying to grow with it.
Time for another call. Stephen in Victoria. Go ahead, Stephen. You're on CFAX.
About the sport. In the past couple of years, we have the hockey suicide because they fight on the ice. So tell me the difference between your fight and the fight on the hockey ice rink. I will listen.
Thanks for the call, Stephen. can you compare? I don't know if you can, because he brings up a point of some of those enforcers on the rink who are obviously battling some major demons, depression, and ultimately taking their lives. Can you make any parallel connections there?
Yeah, I would say there's a big difference. I mean, that's why I've always been a coach and not a fighter. I mean, I think fighters are kind of special. They love to, they're doing this, and I think there's a lot of confusion in the sport. A lot of fighters are really nice people. A lot of the professional fighters at the highest level are people who have been able to sacrifice their bodies for an extremely long time to get very good at the skill. So I think for a lot of people like Sarah, it's not about going into a situation and trying to change the direction of a game or anything like that, a momentum. It's it encompasses their sport. The entire fight is their sport.
Mm-hmm.
But
as opposed to hockey, where it's a part of it.
It's a little part.
Yeah.
And I think for the athletes like Sarah, it's not really about going in and trying to hurt someone. They all really respect each other. And I think it's just something that it's a sport that they enjoy, and I think a lot of them see it as that, and they don't see it as violence. And I think that's why you do have people not enjoying the sport, because they do see it as violence, but they don't really understand where the athletes come from. And that's why I think it's great that people, have their own opinion, because I think when you look at it and you haven't been involved with the sport, sure, yeah, it looks violent.
Sure, when you see blood and people punching each other in the face.
Hockey looks violent, too.
Hockey's violent, football's violent,
Yeah,
a lot of sports are violent. Before we're up against the clock, but Sarah, I want to ask you what's coming up, because you're obviously one of the top fighters in the world. When's your next fight?
We don't have a fight date yet, unfortunately, but I'm definitely hoping to fight in the summer. I'm hoping around August. I've heard rumors online that's when the fight's going to be happening, and I'll be fighting for Strikeforce. I'll be fighting for the Strikeforce 135-pound title, which is my title originally, and I really want it back, and I'm going to be working really hard to get it back with the team at Zuma. And I'll be fighting Ronda Rousey, who's an Olympic judo bronze medalist, and that's her big claim to fame, and she likes to talk, so it's definitely going to be, I consider myself a workhorse, and I consider herself, a talker. So
good stuff. The trash talk begins. We'll have to get you guys on the air. Well, let us know when you are about to fight. We'll have to do a little bit of a preview piece as well.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Sarah, Adam, thanks so much. Fun as always, and best of luck. And if people want to get in touch with you guys, Zuma.tv
Correct.
is the website. Zuma Martial Arts. Thanks again to both of you.
Thanks
so much.